All right, and we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we will now get into talking about the Vikings and the Jets over in London. The second, because I know on Friday I said the first, but the second, but I corrected myself, but the second international game of the season. And yeah, it was, again, I'm going to use the word interesting because the Vikings, they were up 17 to nothing at one point. And it was not looking good for the Jets. But to give the Jets credit, they played, or at least some credit. They were able to come back, make the game closer, and they had an opportunity to win the game. But unfortunately, they came up short. So let's kind of go through it. So the Jets, they opened up the game. They went 3-and-out. Vikings then took the ball. They went 11 plays, 52 yards down the field, and they were able to get a field goal to make it 3-0. Jets then punted, another 3-and-out. However, then the Vikings fumbled. They end up fumbling. Quinnen Williams ended up recovering the fumble, or Quincy Williams, one of the Williams brothers, recovered it. It was Quincy Williams. It was Quincy Williams. Because when I'm looking at it on CBS, it has QI Williams, and they don't have the full name written out. But yeah, so it was Quincy Williams that recovered the fumble. And actually, Sam Darnold got hurt, but he did come back into the game. But anyways, yeah, because Nick Mullins came in for a bit, completed a pass, and then Darnold was able to come back in. But yeah, so that was good for the Jets. But then, Aaron Rodgers, and this is one thing that I just don't like, is those quick throws. I don't like them, even though, again, sometimes they do work, but for the most part, I just don't like them. And Rodgers tries again with that quick throw, and it gets intercepted by Van Ginkel, who returns it 63 yards for a touchdown to make it 10-0. And that is something that we are not accustomed to seeing Aaron Rodgers do, and that is throw interceptions. Or not even interceptions, but, interceptions, but also, more specifically, pick sixes. We really don't see that. That does not happen often. I know it's happened once before. I'm trying to think if there was another time. But yeah, Rodgers does not throw pick sixes. But yeah, Van Ginkel, and they brought it up, he's picked off both New York quarterbacks. So if the Vikings and Josh Allen meet in the Super Bowl, Van Ginkel's going to have to try to pick off Josh Allen if they play the Bills in the Super Bowl. But anyways, so yeah, it was 10-0. And then on the next drive, actually, Rodgers did throw. Now that I remember, I think it was against the Bucs during the COVID season. That was another pick six. Because he actually almost threw back-to-back pick sixes in that game. So yeah, Rodgers has thrown, I think, 3 pick sixes in his career. Okay. So now on the next drive, he did this against the Bucs that year too. He threw back-to-back interceptions in this game, and this one was an overthrow. Him and Allen Lazard just not on the same page. Rodgers overthrows him, gets picked off by Bynum, and thankfully the Jets defense held, and the Vikings went for it on 4th and 2. They didn't get it. So they turned it over on downs, and no harm, no foul there. Then the Jets were going for it. Rodgers connected with Tyler Conklin for 25 yards. They got down to the Vikings 26. They went for it on 4th and 2, and they got stuffed. They ran it with Braylon Allen. He didn't get it. And you know what? It is interesting because it is a 10-0 game. I think you take the points there, right? You make it a one-score game. But because then later in the game, you could have been going for 3 instead of 7 to at least tie it. But then the Vikings, they turned that into a touchdown drive. Darnold connected with Justin Jefferson for 27 yards, connected with Myles Gaskin for 11 yards. Aaron Jones actually got hurt in this game. He left with a hip injury, so we'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. But yeah, more penalties on the Jets. A defensive pass interference call on the Jets, and then another one. And then, then there was an illegal formation on the Vikings that set them back because they were at the Jets too. But then there was a defensive holding, and then C.J. Ham from 2 yards out scores a touchdown to make it 17-0 at that point. However, the Jets did score a touchdown before the end of the first half. Rodgers connected with Allen Lazard for a 14-yard touchdown. So, I mean, it really should have been 17-10, if the Jets would have kicked that field goal, but they didn't do that. And then in the second half, both teams exchanged punts. Greg Zuerlein kicked a 32-yard field goal to make it 17-10. Vikings punted, Jets punted. We go to the fourth quarter. Vikings get another field goal, 53-yard field goal, and it was a 10-point game. Then Darnold threw a pick. Jets turned that into a touchdown. Rodgers connected with Garrett Wilson for a 1-yard touchdown. And then the Vikings, they responded. They were able to get some points, a 41-yard field goal. So the Jets had to go down the field and score. And Rodgers connected with Garrett Wilson for 16 yards, Allen Lazard for 7, Lazard again for 6, Garrett Wilson for 9, Breece Hall, 6-yard run. They got down to the Vikings 26, but Rodgers was trying to hit Mike Williams, and he ended up getting intercepted by Stephon Gilmore, and that was the end of the game. And that was Rodgers' third pick of the game, and that does not happen often. Rodgers is not a guy that turns the ball over like that. He's usually good at taking care of the football, but not yesterday. As you can see, this is his full stat line, 244, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. But the other thing, too, is this offensive line is going to get him hurt. Because, again, he got crushed on one play, and, he was down for a little bit, and he started grabbing his leg, and I'm like, oh, no, don't tell me he did it again. But he was able to get off, and actually, and even before that, actually no, or maybe it was that same possession, but then the Vikings turned the ball over and he ran back out on the field. I think it was during that sequence, but yeah, it was just an ugly day. And again, the offensive line, like I said, is going to get him hurt, and now he's got a low ankle sprain. So they got to do a better job of protecting him, and this is what I was worried about going into this game because the Vikings have a very good defense. They got after Rodgers. They did. They got 4 sacks, but they pressured him. Yeah, it was just not a good day for the Jets quarterback. And the defense actually, kept them in the game. They made stops. They created some turnovers, but it just was not enough. It was not enough. The Jets offense just really couldn't. They're still not quite there yet. And I feel like at some point it's going to click. We saw against the Patriots it did click. But it's just the consistency is not there. And another thing, too, is Breece Hall, 9 carries for 23 yards. Braylon Allen, 5 carries for 13 yards. They can't run the ball. And, people are looking around and saying, where's Breece Hall? Where is this running game? Braylon Allen right now looks like the better running back. And this is unbelievable. I didn't realize this. Garrett Wilson was targeted 22 times in this game. 13 receptions for 101 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Conklin, 6 for 55. Allen Lazard, 4 for 34 and a touchdown. Drops were a problem in this game. Lazard dropped a couple of passes. But yeah, it's just, right now it's not looking good for the Jets. And you look at their schedule coming up. You got the Bills, the Steelers, the Patriots in Foxborough, which I think they should win. But, at the Steelers is not going to be easy. But it's winnable. Watching the Steelers last night, it's definitely a winnable game for them. The Bills, I think it's a winnable game, even though the Bills are coming in after 2 straight losses. They're looking for a win. Both teams are going to be desperate. That's the game next Monday night. But yeah, at the Steelers, then at the Patriots, home against the Texans, at the Cardinals, home against the Colts, bye week. Seahawks, you're going to see Tua twice. You got the Rams and the Bills. There's some tough games there. But, other than the 49ers game, the Jets, you could very easily look at them and say that they should be 4-1. You can. Because the Broncos game, that's a game they could have won. And yesterday they could have won that game had they not played that first half. But, right, like, I look at these games, the Jets, they just beat themselves. And you know what that falls on? Once again, it's the coaching. The coaching. This team, until you get a legitimate head coach in here, this team is not going to win anything. And I'm talking about playoffs. But they got to get to the playoffs first. And look, this is something that I know, I'm going to say that when I talked about this before the beginning of the year, and I said I'm going to go towards that storm because I know that there are a lot of it, that the Jets have a lot of talent, but they still have issues, particularly with coaching. This is what's going to hold them back, and it's holding them back. Robert Saleh is not getting it done. But, you know, it's more than just that. You know, Rodgers doing something uncharacteristic, you know, something that he doesn't do. That's uncharacteristic of him, is turning the ball over. 3 interceptions. That does not happen. So they got to figure it out. And, you know, if they go out and try to get Devontae Adams, like, that's going to help. But I think it's more than just that. You know, the offensive line is an issue. Because if he takes, all it's going to take is one hit, and he could be done. So they really got to figure it out. I mean, Morgan Moses, one of their tackles is out. You know, Tyron Smith isn't really having a great year. But I was saying, like, you go back to the Niners game, and they were protecting him. You know, he wasn't getting hit. Now, I know the 49ers, like, ran all over the defense, but you know, they were doing a good job at, you know, limiting the amount of hits on him. So, I don't know. It's not looking good right now for the Jets. But you know what? It is still a long year, and it's not like they got no shot. I mean, look at the division. The Bills lost 2 straight. The Patriots, you know, they're not going anywhere this year. The Dolphins got their quarterback issues, even though they picked up a win yesterday against the Patriots, even though that game was ugly. This division is still winnable. You know, the Jets' season by no means is over. This team still has a chance to do something, but there's things that I don't think they can fix, and one of them is the head coach, and they're not gonna fire him in this, like, during the year. It's not gonna happen. So, I don't know. But the Vikings are a very good team. But they held Sam Darnold down. You know, Sam Darnold did not have a good game. Had an interception. He was not good. So, you know, credit the Jets defense for at least keeping them in the game, but they got to put together a game where both sides of the ball, you know, are clicking at the same time. And could that be against the Bills on Monday? Because let me tell you something, the Bills, they got off to that great start, but, you know, you look at the opponents that they played against, and now look at who they've played against the last 2 weeks. You know, you could kind of look at the Bills and say, yeah, a little bit fraudulent. Still a good team, but not as good as we may have thought. So, all right. But let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we'll talk about the game tonight between the Saints and the Chiefs, and that will wrap it all up for today. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.